Ogunshaki. So straight to the front pages of the dailies. I'm starting with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with Oronsaye report. Federal government, Labour disagree on job losses. There won't be job losses that's accommodative to federal government. There will be massive job losses that's coming from Labour. NLC asks affiliates to furnish it with implications on members. TUC set a three-man committee. Scrap slate, we don't need a bicameral legislature. That's coming from SSAMU. It's a welcome development, but shouldn't be done in a hurry. That's according to OB. So his being in opposition does not warrant blind and thoughtless criticisms. You can see that on page 5. And here there are pictures. The first showing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu commiserating with the wife of the late former governor Rotimi Akeredolu of Ondo State, Mrs. Betty Anyanwu Akeredolu, and their children during the president's condolence visit in Ondo State yesterday. The second picture is showing Dr. Olaide and the Deputy Governor Ondo State, Governor Lucky Ayedatiwa of Ondo State, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and HRM Oba Ajibade Diolo of Owo during the president's condolence visit to late Akeredolu's family in Ondo State yesterday. Now on page 8, Mambila, I have no regrets paying Agule's medical and travel bills that accompanied to Adesanya. Tinubu to Nigerians, I won't rush to restructure, says Akeredolu was a fearless defender of truth. President is indeed Aketi's brother and friend. That's according to Akeredolu's widow. And on page 15, Olufason, if Abacha could push Tinubu to disavow Nigeria's oneness, what moral justification does his government have to brand Nigerians clowns or unpatriotic for venting their frustrations on Twitter or elsewhere about how Nigeria is run? On sport, Osimhen fires hat-trick in big Serie A win for champions. Tinubu secures $1 billion Afrexim bank grant for medical industrialization to sign executive order on reduction of cost of drugs. Stories of the banner on page 19. Investors lose 1.5 trillion naira in stocks over new monetary policy. Record of strike over threat of intimidation. That's according to Ajaero. Edo fresh crisis brews in PDP. Give me certificate of return or face lawsuit. Shaibu tells NWC. I will surpass Obaseki's performance if elected. That's according to Igodalo. Wigwe finally fixes date for burial rights. And lastly on Vanguard, Makinde moves against rising food prices in Oyo. And you can see that on page 14. Now the Guardian. Guardian is leading with Nigeria spent about 50% of oil earnings on production costs. The NNPC alone spent over 267.98 billion on securing its assets in 16 months, which means that the entire industry could be spending about 1 trillion naira on insecurity in the period. And here one is showing that barrel cost of oil production by country. You can see the statistic there, and the other is showing factors responsible for high production costs. Now on page 30, IEDs kill 2 workers at Bono construction sites. Disconnection imminent as subscribers flood NIMC at telco outlets. Interest rate hike takes toll on stock market as investors lose 1.4 trillion naira. Our federal government threatened it invaded us to suspend nationwide protests by Ajaero. Lastly, on the Guardian newspaper, federal government recruits 2,497 medical professionals to address brain drain. And this morning, Nation is leading with Tinubu. We are laying solid foundation for restructuring. Southwest expects a comprehensive rejig of policy. President visits a Afenifere leader. And here there's a statement that says, for the people of the Southwest, restructuring also has a more pressing meaning. Today, Nigeria has a population of 200 million, which will double the next 25 years to 400 million. You can see that on the front page, and it continues on page 4. President plans executive order to cut prices of drugs. Government injects 50 billion naira into primary health care. Afrexim gives a $1 billion grant for medical industrialization. President leaves for Qatar. Harvard honors for Elumelu Foundation. You can see that on page 3. And stories above the banner. Nigeria's economy not in a mess, says ex-United Kingdom envoy. Lastly, on the Nation newspaper, Makinde moves against rising food prices. Wigwe wife, son for burial March 9. You can see that on page 43 of the Nation newspaper. And lastly, the Punch newspaper. Punch is leading with SIM-NIN linkage. NCC rules out extension. Telcos bar 12 million lines. MTN Airtel order vows to enforce NCC order by midnight Wednesday. And on page 20, gridlock looms as President visit Lagos. Makinde suspends revenue collection on farm produce. Federal government to crash drug prices gets $1 billion from Agrisim Bank. You can see that on page 36. Stories above the banner. Subsidy removal. Petrol import crashes by 990 million litres monthly. And lastly, on the Punch, Soyinka delivers Punch 50th anniversary lecture today. You can get that on page 28 of the Punch newspaper. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Join us after the break for the analysis. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Dablola Ogunshaki. Joining us to analyze the front pages of the dailies this morning is Mr. Oludari Mayowa. He's the publisher of Global Financial Digest. Good morning, Mr. Mayowa.
Good morning, Dablola. I'm good to be here today.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Let's talk about Oronsaye's report. And workers and the federal government, they've sharply disagreed yesterday over how the implementation of the Steve Oronsaye's report will affect jobs in the country. I want to hear your own report. What do you think about it?
Thank you very much. First of all, the report is how many years old now? During the Jonathan's regime was constituted, and President Tinubu now trying to implement the report. What this report say about talking about rationalization of the government institutions, major scrapping of MDAs are doing similar jobs, and definitely if you carry out do extensively the report or implement the report, you see some people losing their job. No, that for example, if you have a DG in particular MD that might be the other one, definitely it cannot remain a DG again. They're talking about a board of such institution to definitely their one board we have to go. So a lot of people will definitely have to lose their job one way or the other, either political office or one way or the other. But the good thing about the report, even though I disagree with the president in trying to bring out a report of over close to 9 years, 8 years for implementing or other than actually review entirely, it is still relevant to what we are operating today and before implementing. The good thing about the report is that we reduce the cost of governance by reducing overpolluted institutions and probably restructure the purpose, the goals, and the objective of setting up those institutions. There are many of these institutions that are doing developing job, and there are many of them that are doing probably practically nothing, duplicating works of other institutions and ministry doing. So for me, it could help reduce the cost of governance. It could help reduce the overpolluted cabinet of the President Tinubu, for example. We have about 48 or 50 cabinet members, and if you are managing ministry, definitely some ministers will have to go or will have to be redeployed to other assignment, and the cost of maintaining a minister is very huge and a burden on the economy. So for me, it could be described as a right step in the right direction, but it depends on the nature of implementation of that report. If it's thoroughly implemented and followed to the letter, and there are certain things that are done right, then we should be able to have a cut down on the cost of governance in this country.
Talking about the cost of things in the country, the minister said that Nigerians are currently seeing benefit of reforms being spearheaded by the president in various sectors. With the things around you, do you think Nigerians are already enjoying the benefits?
I think the minister is living in silo. living in a cocoon. They don't feel the feeling, and that's exactly what happened to public officials in this country. They live in abstract. They live far away from the people and far away from what is the reality on the ground. Or probably they live in illusions, deceiving themselves or deceiving their paymaster. The reality on the ground today is that most of those so-called reform of the president were not properly implemented. They are not properly conceptualized, and the process of implementation were very warped. So for me, that's why we are seeing the impact today. The naira has gone haywire, has spread out of control, because we don't have the liquidity to support